This podcast has been brought to you by GM Moving, part of Greater Sports. We're here to help the people of Greater Manchester get moving and to improve lives through physical activity.
Hi, so I'm Eve Holt. I'm the Student Director at GM Moving. So this is about us sharing ways of moving, learning, leading and staying connected during the COVID crisis. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by Sally Carr from the Proud Trust. So when I joined GM Moving just 8 weeks ago, my core mission at the time was to look at how we help close the gap in health inequalities in Greater Manchester. And I saw supporting more people to get moving, to get active, to redesign moving back into the everyday lives of people here as one key way in which we can do that. And that means very much addressing the very real structural inequities that exist within our society, which mean that it's a lot harder for some people to stay active and to keep fit and well than it is for others. Little did I know 8 weeks ago that 6 weeks into my job we'd be in COVID lockdown, and the inequities that exist have been made all the more acute. So if you are somebody living in an overcrowded household, then obviously the ability for you to keep active within that space is all the greater. And as are the chances of you actually catching COVID are obviously much higher, as it's a lot harder to stay distant from each other, and there's a more likely chance that one of you at least is going to be potentially an essential worker, is going to be having to be operating outside of the household day-to-day basis, and obviously a greater need to do essential shopping just when you have a higher density of people living within any one house. Similarly, if you're living with a disability, then your access to physical activity is a lot harder. It's a lot harder for you to potentially get outside. You might be reliant on a carer and a personal assistant, and the care that you've usually received prior to COVID may longer be available to you, or the people that you've generally relied upon and had relationships with who know what matters to you, know how best to support you, may of course themselves be ill or needing to self-isolate. So there's a whole load of reasons why the inequities and inequalities that we see within Greater Manchester, these social determinants of health, are brought into even sharper light during the COVID crisis. So given that, I can make a whole load of assumptions about what I think may be some of the challenges that particular communities of interest across Greater Manchester may be experiencing right now. But it's much better when you speak to people who are on the front line and who are actually working with people. So today I'm absolutely delighted that Sally's going to be able to share with us some of the work that she's doing with young people in the LGBT community, and to shed some light on what might be some of the challenges they're currently facing and some of the ways that she's helping them to overcome that, and hopefully give us some tips for what we can do, whether that's as a resident, a citizen, an organisation, and across the system, to ensure that the gift of moving, of getting out of the house where that is possible, for your daily dose of exercise, for keeping active in your house, is not a gift that's only for some. So I'm going to be handing over to Sally. Thank you for joining us. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your role at the Proud Trust?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Sally Carr, and I'm the Operational Director at the Proud Trust. We're the largest LGBT children and young people's charity in England, and we offer a lot of different services for LGBT children and young people. Youth groups and one-to-one work, projects, volunteering and work experience, all sorts of different aspects.
And is there any particular work you're doing to support the young people you work with to keep active?
Yeah, absolutely. Sport is at the heart of what we do in physical activity, because we know that for a lot of LGBT plus children and young people, they're often put off sport and activity at an early age. School-based PE is quite traumatising still for a lot of young people. We did some research recently funded through Sports England, and that research was completed at the end of March 2020, and it revealed a story that is age old, really, about young people and children being put off PE at school. Some of that about LGBT phobia, but some of it about specifically transphobia, and also the physical setup of some of those environments just do not accommodate the emerging identities under the LGBT plus umbrella. But at the Proud Trust, in recognition to that, we have had a lot of input where we've trained our staff in various sports so that they're now sport trained and are sport coaches. So we combine the youth work with the coaching to enable us to be able to work and engage young people in sport that's participatory. And that is both sport that you can get involved in on your own and team and group sport as well. And we always try and make it fun and engaging. Sometimes we do put a little bit of competition into that. We run the Pride Youth Games in the Northwest region every year, where we bring the LGBT youth groups from across the Northwest together to engage in a day of sport. And we've designated September as Sporty September for LGBT plus young people. And in this current climate that we're in, where we're delivering digital youth work, we've written a digital LGBT youth work pack that has a whole section on sport and physical activity and keeping moving, a range of different activities that our youth workers have been doing young people on their digital youth spaces that we've got set up. And some of that is as simple as breathing and stretching, and inversion, just simply hanging upside down on your sofa, is actually quite good for you. As well as things like voguing and very simple, short inputs of yoga and Pilates, a little bit of juggling, things like that, and a lot of singing, because that's good for your breathing, it's good for your lungs. So we're doing things like that.
Sounds great. So how can anybody listening in or watching get hold of that pack and that information that you pulled together?
Oh, that's easy. People can just get in touch with us. Our information address is just simply info@theproudtrust.org.
And if anybody out there works with young people and having listened to you then is keen to make sure that they can do more in the work that they're doing to ensure it's inclusive of young people who are LGBT, is there any particular tips that you would give them, other than, you know, coming to yourselves really, possibly some training and advice and resources? What would be some of the first things you think they should be considering?
Okay, we'd like obviously people to get in touch with us. We want to be as helpful as we can where we can. We've also got a little bit of money that was given to us from Greater Sports that allows us to do some training for sports clubs to actually identify and look at where they can resolve matters to make their clubs more accessible and inclusive for LGBT plus children and young people to be part of. So we are open, and we do want people to get in touch, and we can look where we can help people as we go along.
So in this kind of strange new world we're in at the minute in COVID, and as you said, you've now moved all your provision and offer online, we're really thinking about, you know, applying an inequalities lens really to how people stay active at the minute. There's been a lot of, I guess, noise really around stay in, work out, and, you know, what you can do. And you know, some people obviously currently feel comfortable to walk out and enjoy their daily dose of exercise by going around their local park, or, you know, going out for a jog or on their bike. But it feels like that is a gift for some at the moment, not necessarily something that feels as accessible and open to everybody. So are there any particular challenges and barriers that you think are faced by the young people you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whilst young people are in a variety of different home settings, then there are challenges emerging there. For some young people, being at home is quite pleasant, and for some of us it is absolutely not a pleasant experience. And you're right that for some people the idea of being out in public spaces is much dreaded because of previous experiences of being out in those spaces and not being also being physically out, but being out as an LGBT plus person as well. So those challenges still exist for people. And what we would say is that people shouldn't necessarily feel that they can't be in those spaces, but they need to know how to report on any LGBT phobia or hate that they're experiencing whilst out in those spaces, and to alert the police to those experiences as well. We've done a lot of work, particularly with British Transport Police, about young people reporting to them LGBT hate. So we would encourage young people to feel, if they can leave the house, to be out and at least to be doing a walk of a minimum of around 5,000 steps a day. And if they can't be out, then to use the spaces around the house, and if they have got balconies or garden spaces, to be out in there stretching and breathing, as I say, are kind of essential at these times.
Absolutely. And I think about my own, I've got 3 teenagers of my own who are definitely moving a lot less at the minute than when they at least, walked to and from school or to their mates' houses and did their normal stuff that was sort of designed in without them thinking about it, really. And I don't think, I feel like I have to push them out of the house at the minute, and they, just for them, there's a certain sense of the vulnerability, really, of not being in their pack of mates. And they don't necessarily want to walk out with me as much as I might want them to. So I can imagine that would be particularly acute, really, if you're someone who, is fearful of hate crime, whether that's due to your sexuality or any other reason, where you may feel, just all the more nervous about being out there and not being able to hang out in your, your tribe or your pack in a way that you might do normally. So certainly something for us all to be kind of mindful, I think, when we're thinking about what we're encouraging or assuming that people can do, and what might not be possible. So yes, definitely breathing, using what spaces we do have. So in all of this, how do you like to keep moving, Sally?
I've by the end of this experience, Eve, I think I'm going to be totally hench, because I'm doing yoga every morning. I'm running 3 times a week. I'm having a long evening walk, and next week I'm going to start some body balance. So it is. I've taken on more physical activity.
Fabulous. Yeah.
But what of course I am missing, what I would usually do, is go swimming.
Yeah, so I think, you're one of a relatively small percentage, but there is a number of people out there that feel they're doing more at the minute. I think I'm hoping I'm going to have abs of steel, because we've got so many. We've got our team plank session we now have every morning, which is part of our coming together as a great sport community, which is lots of laughs. But we'll see. We'll see how we all emerge at the other end. But it feels important, part of us all staying strong and fit and well, doesn't it, really? We can then support those that we're working with. So, wow, fab. I look forward to taking you on to an arm wrestle or something when we get to meet after the lockdown. All right, well, thank you very much for everything you're doing, and stay in touch and keep moving. And take care. Brilliant. Cheers. Thank you.
See you now. Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, why not share it or tell a friend about it? And if you've got feedback or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch with our team at Greater Sport using the links that you'll find on our podcast page.